Hello, everybody. Welcome to Resilience Plus Rise, the podcast for those who refuse to settle, who crave for more than success, and are ready to rise above it. In every episode, we dive deep into electrifying principles based on my upcoming book, Resilience Plus Rise 26.2 Transformative Miles to Unleash Your Marathon of Life Mindset. It's supposed to be releasing early 2025. What I put across in the book is life's hardest challenges that becomes a fire that forges you in your boldest breakthrough. Whether you're on an edge of reinvention, chasing a dream that feels just out of reach, or yearning to reclaim the passion that once set you ablaze, you will find the clarity, courage, and an unshakable momentum when you reach right there. It's all there in the book. My name is Thomas Scaria. I'm a coach, I'm an ultra marathoner, and a relentless believer in your next most powerful chapter. Together, we shatter limits, rewrite your narrative, and rise despite the struggle, not because of that, but you will rise above it. Today, I'm so thrilled to welcome an exceptional guest, Avery Sunshine. Yes, you heard it right. The name is Sunshine. She's a coach with an expertise and skills in social anxiety, brave practice maintenance, and keeping the momentum moving forward. She helps in putting in the confidence, the courage, the transformational coaching. One of the best lines that I've come across her is that she wants your life to be the same what your heart longs for, making your soul sing. So without much ado, Avery, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here, Thomas.
Thank you. So here I just mentioned briefly about who you are,
Yeah.
but if you could take our listeners roughly through the journey in short. This recording, as I've mentioned, is that this would be roughly around 25 to 30 minutes.
Right.
So if you could just take our listeners through the journey, who you have been and what it took for you to reach currently where you are and the journey going on.
Sure. Let me just say that I'm the owner of Sunshine Mindset LLC. I'm an ICF ACC credentialed and certified international coach. So I have clients all over the world in all ages, like the littlest one being 8, the oldest one being 70 something.
Nice.
And I take this work very seriously. I'm also an emotional intelligence trainer, facilitator, a brand new author, and a transformational speaker. But my life has not always been like that. So let me
Okay.
take you back and on my journey a little bit. So I was always a very anxious kid. I couldn't make friends on my own. I couldn't raise my hand in class, even if I knew the answer was 100% correct. Just the
Mhm.
fear of using my voice in the school setting or in social settings was too intense. I didn't like the attention. I didn't like people looking at me. I didn't want to be in the spotlight. So I struggled for many years with social anxiety, and it was pretty severe through all my school years and then into my younger adult years. And I'm going to date myself for a minute right now because if you could imagine, middle school is always, not always, but it's a common challenge for many kids. It's you're kind of finding who you are. It's out of the elementary school, and it's like a transitional period. So in middle school during lunch, which was always a challenge for me because it was unstructured. So it wasn't like, okay, follow this routine. This is where you go. You have a place to be. It was unstructured chaos to me, honestly. And this is where I'm going to date myself because back then we had no cell phones, right? So now kids can, look busy or interact or distance themselves or, be engaged with their cell phone if they're feeling uncomfortable or socially anxious. But back then, I didn't have that. So if I didn't have specific friends or people that I felt comfortable joining for lunch, I would call my mom on a payphone at work just so that I had a place to be, to fit in, so that I looked busy, that I didn't look awkward, circling around or anxious, just so that I had a place to be, that I was busy and occupied. So that's a little bit about how anxious I was
Okay.
growing up. I will say that I did come from a pretty dysfunctional family. I did experience physical, mental, verbal, and emotional abuse.
I'm sorry.
And I'm saying that, thank you for, I'm saying that not to point fingers, but to set the context of the environment that I was growing up in.
Hmm.
Um, and so I always thought that I was very reserved or shy or um, self-conscious because of my environment. I thought
Okay.
that's why I was socially awkward, anxious, and uncomfortable. And because of my environment, I created many unhealthy limiting beliefs. Like I didn't like the way I looked. I didn't think I was smart enough. Um, I didn't think my voice mattered. I definitely didn't feel loved or worthy. Um, and I lacked self-confidence. Long story short, um, I eventually, got married. And I had two daughters who are now teenagers.
Oh,
My
okay.
my little one will be 15 on Friday, actually, and my
Happy birthday in
oldest,
advance.
yes, and my oldest will be soon in a couple months, 18, which is blowing my mind. But I noticed that when they were a very young age, that they started to follow in my footsteps socially. And so I really was in tune to them, and I noticed that like at home they would be loud and putting on shows and singing and bossy, the whole, just comfortable. But in like social skills or like a gym class for little kids, they would freeze up
Hmm.
and kind of withdraw and almost be numb
Hmm.
or emotionless, even with me in those settings.
Oh,
So I started to research and I came across selective mutism, and reading about it, I was kind of taken back because this is me as a kid, these symptoms. So not only did I come from the dysfunctional family, but I also had this anxiety disorder. So I had two things working against me.
okay.
And so that's why I'm saying why I shared the dysfunctional family is that our environment
Hmm.
really affects who we become
Sure.
and really can work for us or work against us. So with my girls, I got them all the support they needed. I found a camp um, that was intensive, and all we did was work on brave exposure practice in a school-like setting, and they
Okay.
worked on using their brave voice. And I'm happy to say that they're now on the other side of that. They're like, one is in theater on stage singing at coffee shops, the other's dancing on stage. They're both able to participate in school, they're both able to do oral presentations, make friends, all of that. And so in helping them and watching their transformation, I knew that there was a higher level for me. I knew that if they can do this work and if they can grow so much, and watching their confidence grow gave me a confidence to go on a higher level of myself. So I got credentialed. I started doing trainings, emotional intelligence, learning, listening to podcasts, everything that everyone does, all the
Yeah.
self-help stuff. And I realized that this is what I want to do. And so I got credentialed and certified to be a coach. Then I did mentoring to be an emotional intelligence trainer. I did a class for public speaking, so I'm certified in that. And I started just really supporting my clients and letting them know that they don't need to be defined by their past, that they can rewrite their story, and that while we can't go back and change our past, it's written in stone, right? You cannot go back and change it. But what we can do is change the meaning that we attach to those experiences and
Wonderful.
use it in a way that can propel us forward, and use it in a way that can fire us and create a spark in our passion. Like, what can I use those hurtful moments or hurtful experiences in a way to give back to the world, in a way to help others, in a way to be in service to others and to give back. And so that's what I do.
Well, that's a beautiful journey. I was about to
Thank
say
you.
story. It is not a story. It is a journey. What you've gone through,
Yeah.
and yeah, that's where people they feel so scared, vulnerable. And one of the things which I have realized as a coach is that when I'm talking to people, they they are scared to show their vulnerability. They are
Mhm.
scared to show. But there was this quote, I believe, from Rumi, I think so, where they say, "Be proud of your wounds because that's where the light from within starts
Yes.
shining, and
Yeah.
that's where it shows where you are." So you have used your based on where you were, thanks to the experiences with your own children, and you realize the potentiality of what you could do to help
Yeah.
the environment around. As we talk about the environment, it is about, they say, was that Jim Rohn, five people whom you are surrounded with,
Yeah.
and it comes out in that particular way it is.
Mhm.
So when you're seeing this difference and you have been in this coaching sphere for a while, uh, what are the transformational aspects that you see? I'm not talking about others, but within your own self. What has been happening that you see yourself growing into being, the word I usually or usually uses, being a better human?
Um, because of my past, are you asking? Because
No,
of,
because of what you have been working on.
oh, because of the work I'm doing?
Yes.
Um, there is nothing more meaningful and rewarding than watching my girls, my own daughters, or my clients um, create results for themselves and create self-love and create self-worth, and
Mhm.
know that they can reinvent themselves. And there's so many of my clients that just have felt like throwing in the towel, and that they have no purpose in life, and that social anxiety or anxiety in general is like this curse that they cannot get onto the other side of. And you can. And it's not easy.
It is
It's not
not.
easy, but it is doable. I'm proof. I was extremely, I would break out in hives. I couldn't look people in the eye to connect. I mean, even into my younger adult years. Um, and when we practice who it is that we want to become in small steps, and that is what I call brave exposure practice, um, in small steps, but consistent steps.
Mhm.
then they last and they stick, and it creates transformational change. And every time we do this, we're expanding our comfort zone. And so really the only way to get to the other side of our fear or our anxiety or trauma is to work
Mhm.
through it.
Sometimes when you just hear work through it, it sounds so simple.
It's
But
not simple.
it is not that's what I was coming to. It is not at all simple. You need to put in that effort, because when you were talking about anxiety, I was just reflecting on one of my podcasts which I had done few days back, wherein this person, the same, the social anxiety, wherein they were into the point about had enough with life
Mhm.
and I don't want to do it anymore. And of course, as a young adult, wherein you have to be comparing yourself with your other peers or your people whom you are trying to match, and when you cannot handle it and when there is no support coming in, so it becomes very, very challenging. So I don't say that I can understand, because for me it was a different ball game. My anxiety was in a different area.
Yeah.
But there were people at times wherein we could turn around to, whether it was friends who were dear to me, or maybe some relatives whom I could turn to and tell what's happening around, or
Yeah.
help me to vent out that particular sense. What you just said was something which was very profound, which was very transformational, that there are things which people can do.
Mhm.
If you could spend the next few minutes in telling is that now I mean, not everybody, but people who listen to this podcast, they may be going through the social anxiety, or they may be knowing people who are going through the social anxiety, or it may sometimes what happens unfortunately is that they don't show that they are anxious. They show everything seems to be good.
Mhm.
Okay, everything is okay, when we know everything may not be okay.
Yeah.
uh, what are few steps or few lessons that you have learned in the last few years? I mean, it doesn't have to go into a structural dogma. It can be just,
Right.
what are the simple things that they can do? It could be like I just mentioned, the affirmation at the back, I
Yeah.
am.
Yeah.
Okay. Or the way you have spread the flowers and the music around the place, the different elements. What are the small steps they could do to create a larger impact in their own life? Or maybe by just listening to you, they can tell somebody else is that, hey, my sometimes when I talk to some people when I'm not in the coaching hat, I say that just remember, hide nothing, fear nothing.
Yeah.
It takes you a long way. But again, it's easier. But then could you
Yeah. So, I mean, a lot of how we act and what we do or don't do and the actions we take or don't take has become a habit, right? We've done it so much, so many times that it's now autopilot. It's just, like brushing your teeth, it's autopilot. We're not thinking, okay, let me put the toothpaste on and let me go up and down. We brush our teeth on autopilot. And so that's what happens with, you know, our habits. And if we can be intentional, and the first step is always self-awareness. What are my habits? What are the thoughts I'm having about myself? Not just habits, but our thoughts, our beliefs, that we're having our internal conversations with ourselves. And what are they? And are they supporting me or are they tearing me down? Because we all have limiting beliefs, myself
sure,
included. They are going to come up. And they're going to come up frequently forever. But how we choose to navigate them and interrupt them is a practice. And, so if you have, I'm 40, almost 48. So if, I have 48 years almost of, you know, tearing myself apart or not wanting to go out to social gatherings because I'm fearful, that's 48 years of practicing that. It's a long time.
Wow.
And
Okay.
so, in order to interrupt that, we have to first be self aware. What are my habits? What are my thoughts, beliefs? What are the actions I'm doing or not taking? And are they supporting me towards the person that I want to become? And really like evaluating that. And if the answer is no, then how can I start implementing new habits, new thoughts, new beliefs that are going to support me and propel me towards the person I want to become? And it's about being intentional and interrupting the I'm not good enough, or my voice doesn't matter, or I'm not smart enough, or they're going to think I'm awkward because I am not good at small talk. But learning to give ourselves grace and learning to take small baby steps and expand our comfort zone slowly is the only way to grow. If there's something in life that we don't have or that we want that we don't already have, the only way to get it is to step outside our comfort zone. It's the only way.
So here again, Avery, thanks for that. That was quite deep. But if breaking it down into a simpler way, more simpler way, I just read Eckhart Tolle, reread it. Maybe I don't know how many times I've read it. The Power of Now,
Okay.
wherein we have got our mind, and we are an entity wherein we can observe the mind. But you mentioned a very powerful statement initially, is that the habits which we have inculcated, that's a safe zone. That's a place wherein
Mhm.
we find a comfort. Even
Yes.
though it could be painful, we like to be in that particular corner because that's what we are familiar with.
Yes, that's what we know. It's
Okay.
we know what to expect there.
Yes. So if I could ask you that, for a person, they are hearing this podcast and they say, oh, it's okay for you to say that, but how am I to separate my mind and separate myself? Because you mentioned about uh, my anxiety, my the way people, I believe that I don't have a voice, I do not know how I'm how I'm being looked into, all these particular things. So
Mhm.
what could be the steps that they could do to just take a step back and refocus? Because we say that, yeah, make small changes, but when your mind is in control.
Yeah. It's there's a lot of steps. And I I would say with my clients and myself, implementing a routine of, you know, journaling and daily gratitude and affirmations, because positive affirmations, because everything that comes after the word I am, we take ownership of.
True.
Just like we introduce ourselves, my name's Avery, I'm Avery. You introduce yourself, I'm Thomas. You're taking ownership. So if we're constantly telling ourselves, you know, even without thinking about it, oh, I'm not good enough, or this is scary, or this person's better than me, or I'm going to embarrass myself, then we believe that.
True.
And we believe it, we take that on as our truth. Whether it is true, it's not true, but we take that on as our truth. So it's about being intentional and choosing when those beliefs come up to replace it with a positive affirmation or an empowering belief. I'm worthy. I used to tell myself in the mirror, I'm loud, because I was so quiet and I wanted nothing more than to be loud. And the more that we say it, and it sounds goofy at first, but the more that we say it, the more that we then begin to believe it, and then it becomes a part of who we are.
True. Actually, when you said I'm not good enough, that I believe has been imposter syndrome for a lot of people.
Yeah.
There are people, especially if you go through the social media, oh, they've got around so many followers, and why am I getting into this particular picture? But
Yeah.
again, a few weeks back, I was fortunate enough when somebody had mentioned is that when we say I am something, just take a step back. Let's say that I am not good enough. But if you take a step back and say that I'm feeling I'm not good enough, it is just that feeling which comes up.
Yes.
And that has just a time span. It's not longer that you're identifying yourself that you're not good enough.
Yes.
That could change the entire way we talk about. Again, just being mindful of the time. Before we can stop this particular podcast, is there any parting words that you would like the listeners to know? Some words of wisdom. It has been an amazing journey so far, what I've been hearing, but something that a takeaway and they can say, aha, like for you, it is own your voice, shine your light. That's been your mantra.
Yes. There's so many. I would say that repetition and not perfection is key. The more that we practice doing, the easier it's going to become. So, frequency over duration. So,
Okay.
small steps, baby steps. I'm going to say that there is always light at the end of what seems as a dark, lonely, scary tunnel, and that your past experiences or diagnosis does not in any way define who you are.
Okay.
And that at any moment, you can choose to pick up the pen of your life and rewrite your story going forward. And it's not easy,
It's not easy
but to
because
keep showing up for yourself and your growth consistently and daily. And you will create transformational change.
wonderful. And as you just mentioned just few statements back, is that a sense of belief
Yeah.
that you can grow from where you are.
Yes.
So, guys, over here, what we just heard was a sense of belief, a sense of knowing that who you are and what you want to do. Because it's always a choice. You can be where you are and be comfortable and wallow in that particular pain or the fear or the self doubt, but know that you are an infinite being. You got the light that's required to shine. Go ahead and shine. We have just spoken to Avery Sunshine, wherein she has been such a bright light for many people. And as I believe in my Resilience Plus Rise, there is always a chance that we can do. The fact that we are getting up in the morning, there's an opportunity for us to transform. Of course, Avery is also a transformational coach. I will be having her links on the comments over here. Do share, like, subscribe, and if there's any comments you would like to put across, please do it. I would be very much thankful for that. And Avery, with this, I would like to end our session. Thank you so very much,
Thank you for having me. I appreciate you.
and keep shining bright. Thank you so very much.
Thank you.